Morning, everybody.
Morning.
As Gerald said, Mark Johnson. I'm the Managing Director of Torse. I've got my colleague here, Joe Green, as well, from our pricing management team. We thought we'd do a slightly different format than the traditional slides. And if you look on your seats, or you pop them all away, we're basically going to work through the banner here. This has an A4 sheet. You might need your reading glasses for some of the print. Okay, we're here today really to try and look at some of the commercial perspectives of sustainability. What's the reality for businesses? We hear a lot of information, a lot of good information, but there's a lot of bad information. So what we're trying to do as a business is talk to many hundreds, many thousands of clients about what they can do, what they can't do, and what they can't afford not to do. So that's what we kind of want to talk about. And sustainability for business is about implementing energy saving policies. It's about changing the culture of organisations, all the way through to even perhaps implementing some technology that you might be looking at in terms of your buildings or your company processes. But the real issue is we can't afford not to do anything. If you look at the pricing graph here, the reality for businesses is that over the past 25 years, energy costs in real terms have tripled. And the majority of those cost changes have been in the last 10 years. And whilst we can see there's a move towards more sustainable energy, because we have to do it, we can't avoid doing it, there's a broad amount of growth in hydro, wind, bio, PV, etc. So we've gone in 10 years from 2.5% of sustainable energy through to only today 11%. So there's still a long way to go. Why do we need to change? There are legislative reasons. There's the Kyoto Protocol, there's the EU Green Paper, there's the ISO 16064. We'll talk about some of these things in a bit more detail. There's legislation going to make us do things. These kind of events, and a lot of the information that's coming from government, is forcing us to look at sort of socially and culturally our attitude towards energy consumption. We do have to think very differently about what we're doing with regards to energy. Over the next few years, with some of the figures have been referred to, by 2020, 15% of energy will have to come from renewable resources. By 2030, the intention is that our whole power sector should just about be decarbonised. And ultimately, the current goal is about reducing, and I think it was Andy referred to the bottom line, by 2050 we need to have reduced our carbon emissions by 80% compared to 1990 levels. So there's an enormous amount that has to be done. It's not all cost. We'll look at some of the practicalities. There are things that can be done easily, but they need to be done. We're digging the stuff out of the ground. We can't do it forever. Back to the bank account. We have to make some efforts. So I'll pass you over to Joe, who can talk about some of the issues and resources linked to that. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Joe Green. I'm going to pick up where Mark's left off here. You'll see on your handouts and on the banner we've got a section entitled Barriers to Progress. We've outlined on the diagram the key areas that business owners and directors often perceive to be factors that prevent exploration of opportunities to implement some of the ideas we wish to explore, which at their core will save you money. Now, a very commonly perceived hurdle is one of architectural considerations. A city such as Nottingham and the UK generally has an enormous amount of commercial use buildings that are listed to varying levels. And a common attitude might be, my building is listed, so there's nothing that can practically be done, that's going to significantly reduce our energy usage. Another common barrier is simply one of lack of detailed knowledge on the subject of energy sustainability and efficiency. A lot of people assume that sustainability is simply about investment, piling money in to get the rewards. Changes to the physical structure of your building, photovoltaic, wind turbines. It isn't. There's a multitude of very simple but effective tasks that can be implemented in your business, many of which, crucially, cost nothing to implement. There's the disruption to business factor. Business owners and directors often assume that their business is going to be significantly disrupted with physical changes to the business and operations, upheavals in procedures and practices, and therefore, especially in times of economic hardship where you're looking to save money wherever possible, people are unwilling, or at the very least unenthusiastic, to risk significant interference. However, as Jerome Badley of the NEP told us when we interviewed him about the issues, with careful planning, disruption can be kept to a minimum whilst enabling the benefits of the technology used to quickly be reaped. Poor advice. Poor advice remains one of the major barriers businesses have to overcome, or more accurately, avoid. Many business owners have been given erroneous or misleading advice by companies with an inherent vested interest in selling a particular technology. And this has put a lot of people off pursuing energy conservation or technologies any further. The particularly notable issue with ourselves, Torse, ETC and the NEP initiative is that these are organisations only interested in finding the best energy unit cost in the case of Torse, providing the best strategy advice, amongst other things, in the case of NEP, and the application of the most appropriate technology, amongst other things, in the case of ETC. This is impartial advice from three organisations with no other agenda. So, moving on from barriers, the next natural area to focus on is what the motivators are. What are our motivators to overcome these barriers, if any of these apply to anyone in the room? Well, cutting to the chase of a pretty significant motivator for businesses, significant savings can be made. As we've mentioned, many businesses assume that sizable savings can only be made following significant investment or major structural upheaval. For example, installing some kind of technology feed-in tariff, such as solar panels, wind turbines, so on and so forth. This quite simply isn't the case, and as we will see from a video presentation we're going to play shortly, Jerome Badley of the Nottingham Energy Partnership does provide a step-by-step guide ranging from simple, free, effective energy conservation, right through to the more obvious investment in technology, and of course options relating to generating your own energy. The supply chain. If you're in business and there's nothing else you take from this particular presentation, we would like to consider the following. If other businesses, especially your competitors, are saving energy, whether they're generating their own power or simply using their energy practices more efficiently, they will be cutting their costs. This can be reflected not only in their profit margins, but also in their competitive edge of how much they can charge for their services. And as such, this is a key motivator in this area, and especially in the current economic climate. Government pressure is related to key legislation issues mentioned earlier in the presentation. There is currently significant pressure from the government in the form of the carbon reduction commitment, climate change levy, and it seems extremely unlikely, regardless of which political party is running the country, that the trend for taxations and penalties on businesses, both locally and nationally, that don't take steps to reduce their carbon footprint and energy sustainability, it seems very unlikely that that trend will not continue. Moving on, you'll see a picture of a smart meter on the diagram. Now, smart meters are an extremely important part of the whole process of energy assessment and conservation. They're certainly one of the most prominent aspects of energy conservation and efficiency in the UK currently, and Torse would strongly recommend that any business have these installed as soon as possible. Now, to those of you who aren't familiar with smart meters, also known as AMR meters, they're really quite a straightforward piece of technology, but they represent a significant improvement on the existing technology. Put simply, they're installed to replace your existing electricity meter. That's essentially all they are. But what they offer is a much more detailed breakdown of your energy usage. They detail your total energy usage, as a previous meter will have done, but they also offer analysis that shows usage throughout the day and night, The data they provide allows businesses to formulate when the peaks and troughs of their usage are. They allow you to assess usage on an hourly, a daily level, and allow you to compare usage at different periods to constantly assess whether the business is using more or less energy than comparable periods, or perhaps more crucially, more or less energy than you should be. The reason that smart meters that can be such a significant step for business is if you want to use your energy more efficiently, and if you have a plan to do so in the future, you first have to have a clear picture of what you are using and when. This is always the most important first step to take. You can't really get a practical idea on what energy you're using by simply using an overall usage figure. Smart meters really are the first step for any business that wants to improve their energy profile, and Torse can easily arrange for one to be installed with no installation costs whatsoever. We would recommend that you come and have a chat with us if you're interested about any of this or anything that you've heard today, or any other issues we've raised here. But at this point we've got a video for you to watch, so if someone would kindly do the honours.
Over the next couple of years, while we've had fairly level energy prices maybe over the last year or so, energy prices are going to go up again. There's almost a no-brainer that they're going to go up again. And businesses really do need to be looking at now reducing energy costs. It's not just energy costs that are going up, it's the cost of everything associated with energy. So the carbon costs as well. Now 1,200 companies have been roped into sort of carbon accounting, legally mandated carbon accounting as of next April. And that's on top of the carbon reduction commitment that already covers a lot of larger businesses. So businesses need to accept that this is going to become more and more mandated, more and more legally mandated, and there's going to become an increasingly stringent sort of financial or forceful financial reasons to do this. So in terms of what businesses can do to reduce their energy costs going forward, I think the first thing that you need to do is understand how much energy you consume and how much it costs you. I would say undertaking a full Scope 1, 2 and 3 carbon footprint, which is the sort of thing that Nottingham Energy Partnership will do with businesses, gives you that initial baseline. You know how much you consume in terms of energy, fuel, waste, even beyond just energy consumption. Then once you've got that, making sure you're buying it at the lowest price, making sure that you're not spending money unnecessarily, and actually looking at your tariff structures and reducing your cost per unit is the next step. Clearly, because that doesn't really cost you anything, and it's immediate savings without actually investing anything. And that's the sort of thing that Torse does. So then beyond that, there's the sort of working on the lower cost or no cost type measures. That's generally working with your staff to support your staff to undertake switching off lights and turning off computers when they're not needed, and this sort of thing. Energy efficient behaviour, and often in that case you can get somebody in to talk through your staff about the issues and identify areas of savings. Often providing staff with smart metering data is quite a useful tool. So actually fitting better metering into your business, so you can provide the information to your staff to give that positive feedback. You turned off the lights all this week, it's saved this amount of energy. So I'd say behaviour change, and then sort of smart metering and linking those two things together. Beyond that, smart metering is very low cost. You can often approach your energy supplier and ask them to install a smart meter. In fact, by 2017, I think all businesses, possibly 2019, all businesses are going to have smart meters anyway across the UK. But you can go early and get these things installed more quickly than that. And that allows you to unlock the sort of 5 to 8% in terms of energy savings from just changing behaviour, turning your boilers off at sort of the hour at the end and the hour at the beginning of the day when you wouldn't need them maybe. That goes into the sort of next level of things you can do really, which is basically simple building energy management. Not even engaging with your staff, it's just about making sure that your boiler isn't operating out of sort of odd hours, making sure once you've looked at your detailed smart metering data that your you don't have things that cycle on halfway through the night and then go off again, unnecessarily. So you're starting to sort of build up to the sort of things which might start to need a bit of consultant support. At that level, you might need somebody to come in and look at your bills and actually analyse them and say, actually, what's this? And again, that's something we have partners that we work with around providing that sort of consultant support. Then beyond that, you start getting to things which actually cost money. So, and all this process beforehand really hasn't really cost you very much, but you may well have saved quite significantly on your bills. Obviously, initially, the quickest wins are usually insulation. Insulating your buildings, cavity wall insulation, loft insulation, maybe even looking at improving windows, but that is a fairly long payback. Just thermal insulation usually works. And talking with your landlord or your building owner is quite a good route through to that. And then through things like commercial lighting has a very quick payback. So upgrading older lighting to newer lighting is usually the next sort of consideration. So if we want to talk about the more fashionable end of energy technology, you're really sort of starting to talk about renewable energy systems, things like photovoltaics, solar water heating, wind turbines, biomass, ground source heat pumps, that sort of thing. There's a hierarchy of how you should interact with energy saving and energy generation, and that's really managing your energy first, measuring your energy, then reducing it, doing the untrendy stuff, but then getting through to the more exciting stuff like PVs and photovoltaics and wind turbines.
The sort of technologies businesses should be considering adopting, installing, buying, call it what you will. Solar power for heating of hot water.